a key battleground state in the race for the White House. In just moments, the current U.S. president will debate the former U.S. president as their party's presumptive nominees, a first in American history. We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world.
Hi everyone, it's time for the great CNN presidential debate analysis. Before we start, just to note, it's me and you tonight, but Luigi will be with us sooner than expected. I'll explain at the end of the episode. Anyway, the great debate, a privilege, both a privilege and an honor to participate in this great democratic experiment. But before we get right into it, has to be said, last episode, Luigi was more than prescient when he said Biden is gonna have a billion senior moments, folks, because let me tell you, there were a lot of them. Possibly too much, definitely too much. Even his greatest enemies admitted it. I mean, why wouldn't they? That he's his enemies. Anyway, the point being, it was too much. Let's get right into it.
This is the CNN presidential debate.
This debate is being produced by CNN.
This debate is being produced by Jeff Bezos' cybernetic third testicle and the CNN hive mind.
CNN International, CNN.com, CNN Max, and CNN Espanol. This is a pivotal moment between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump in their rematch for the nation's highest office.
Let's go. It's debate time.
Now, please welcome the 46th President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Folks, how are you?
Little bit shabby. Hi folks, how are you? It's past my bedtime.
And please welcome the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump.
No comment, no comment, no comment. Now, I've divided the debate into sections. We won't cover all the subjects they went through, but we'll proceed to look through a few of them. Number one.
Let's begin the debate, and let's start with the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern, the economy.
The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce-back jobs, a bounce-back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Thank you. President Biden?
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world, he's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks he had the greatest economy in the world. And, you know, the fact of the matter is that we found ourselves in a situation where his economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant. And the military, you know, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still finding ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world.
Enough, Joe. This week, nobody can follow what the fuck you're saying.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can.
Am I allowed to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you.
And this is when Jake knew he fucked up the debate.
I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cost country.
Thing is, though, that it will literally drive them higher. That's literally what tariffs are. An excellent start. My brain's already boiling. Let's move on to the next topic. But before we go, closing statements on the economy. Trump.
And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent, all of the things he's done. We've become like a third world nation, and it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country. And I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
Wow, very on point. Biden?
Child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Wow. Wow. No comment.
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex, but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives.
Everybody, literally everybody. You ask them about the Roe v. Wade. They were like, no, let's get it to the States. Every scholar that ever walked this earth wanted this. Dana, it's amazing how much he lies. It's amazing how he feels 0 degree of shame when he lies through his teeth like this. Someone should investigate. Someone should study him.
Every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected.
What the fuck? What? I'm losing you, Donnie. Let's go to Joe's response.
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided. Supported Roe. And that's this idea that they were all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states. Let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in, they talk about that. But here's the deal: there's a lot of young women who are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters.
What the fuck? What the fuck? Next topic.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch, overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers, significantly By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Roll the tape. Let's play it back.
I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
Look at his face, look at Trump's. Look, Jack, look, give me a break. Just give me a break. Makes perfect sense. He's gonna get the total initiative to achieve relative success pertinent to the issue discussed. We literally couldn't make this shit up. Let's go to Trump on immigration.
We had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere. All over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And
the flying fuck is he talking about? My God. This is the dying of an empire. We are witnessing historical times, folks. I can't take any more of this.
President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, and his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person coming in his administration.
Next topic.
We're literally an uncivilized country now.
My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
Jake, even my greatest enemies admit that I suck like nobody has ever sucked before.
Move to the topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its third year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him.
Answer the fucking question, dipshit, for fuck's sake.
As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, a president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine.
Oh my God, we are still going with this goddamn answer. Let me tell you, folks, it would have never happened if it was me, folks. Never. Problem eliminated. Next problem, climate change. If it was me, it would have never happened. Over to you, Jack.
President Biden?
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops.
Oh my God, Jack, you look like you've got brain damage.
Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did.
Yes, thank you. Once again, very lucid. I think we've heard enough. We've heard about as much as we can about the topic. Next.
Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
Jack?
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward. Which has 3 stages to it.
Oh my God, we don't care about your stupid plan that nobody's going for. Trump?
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second.
No, we're not going back to Ukraine for 1 second, you stupid fucking imbecile. Do you have anything to add about Israel-Palestine, or is that it?
As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
Wow, an incredible contribution to the topic. Enough. Next topic.
It's the guy who wants to get out of NATO. Are you going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As president, you swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people.
I mean, can you even respond to this? Look, hate to break it to you conservative Americans, but literally everybody who is an American thinks this guy is an idiot. It is what it is. I say roll with it.
President Biden?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up to Capitol Hill, number one. I sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll now forgive them for what they've done.
Response by Trump?
President Trump?
What they've done to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people.
Great people like Al Capone. Everybody knows Al. Great guy, tough guy. He got raped by an illegal immigrant at the border. Horrific stuff. It's horrific stuff. Joe, any parting thoughts on the subject?
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now.
True, that is true.
Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with, and think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
Give you a minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star.
The challenge is the climate crisis. 2023 was the hottest year in recorded history, and communities across the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name, and he called it to them for 10, and they've taken great offense at it, and now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically black colleges and universities, where I funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job, great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country, opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary are blacks. And that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever, the best numbers. He's lost much of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
Sir, this was the climate change question, not the super predator blacks don't like him, immigrants are invading the nation question, sir. Can you answer the climate question?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air, and we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever, and we were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
Best numbers, best hydrogen. What else is there to say, really?
I don't know where the hell he's been. The idea that anything he said is true. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water, he hadn't done a damn thing for the environment. He pulled out of the Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord. I immediately joined it because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change, and he didn't do a damn thing about it. He wants to undo all that I've done.
Response?
What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage, I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals.
They're raping our women, our children. It's sick stuff. Sick stuff. They're emptying their insane asylums, their jails. The late great Hannibal Lecter. Ever heard of him? They're everywhere. The border is wide open. Have I ever read you the poem about the snake? By the way, great heart, biggest heart on the stage. Probably by sheer dimensions from all the grease and fat it's ingested. Response by Jack.
The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones.
Is he revving up? A great response.
Thank you.
And by the way,
You understand, we have polling, we have other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me, I'll show you, I will show you. And they rate me one of the best, okay?
Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries, and there was more to come, but he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
Sir, the question was, this is the opioid epidemic question, not the biggest deficit in the history of our country, Manchurian candidate, tremendous tariffs, China is owning us question, sir. Can you give us anything on the opiates?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way. And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border it started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog that's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot, and we were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now?
We're doing great things, Jake. The numbers were incredible. We got the dog, such a magnificent dog, Jake. His fur was so soft. It was incredible. The numbers were something else. And then he fucked the numbers. Have you seen them now? Worst numbers I've ever seen. What a response. Joe?
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl, these big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs, more numbers of agents, more numbers of all the people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues, said, "Don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically." No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Thank you.
Now Jake is going to throw a Hail Mary to maybe get something resembling a coherent response from Trump about how he's going to deal with fentanyl addiction that doesn't involve incredible numbers and beautiful dogs.
President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, this does pertain to it. He ended Remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here.
What the fuck are you talking about, you fucking goddamn troglodyte? You ended catch and release. Catch and release what? The fucking fentanyl. Ah!
We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage. We always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say it's a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter. I think a good guy. And he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars.
Wall Street Journal reported in jail because Putin is laughing at what the fuck? Fentanyl, you goddamn cretin, fentanyl.
For the reporter, I will have him out very quickly as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said by literally as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago. But Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases where he paid $6 billion for 5 people.
Enough.
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you. President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look at what I've done. Look how I've turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought an awful lot of people. The whole idea of computer chips, we used to have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and to bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States. And guess what? Those fabs, they call that to build these chips, those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. Like a memory question. It's like you'll go person, woman, man, camera, TV. So they say, could you repeat that? So I said, yeah. So it's person, woman, man, camera, TV. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, you know, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced them. They say, that's amazing. How did you do that? I do it because I have like a good memory, because I'm cognitively there. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor, and then I took another one, a similar one, and one of them said they've never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you, President Biden.
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's what anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
Push-up time, baby. Come on, Joe. Come on, fat face. I can do more push-ups than you. Let's go.
That's the biggest rival. He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8. But I have, you know how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Yeah, enough. The conversation has clearly degenerated into completely senile territory. They're debating golf swings now. Do we have any bangers before the end?
You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the country. Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local, none. But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner.
Nice. Closing statements.
It is now time for the candidates to deliver their closing statements as predetermined by a coin toss. We're going to begin with you, President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
We've made significant progress.
He's dead. No, he's alive. Keep rolling.
By President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one,
Whatever, he's losing it.
for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for the
Other guy.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, They couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was.
Iran is raping us. The Ayatollah owns us. I know Xi very well. He owns us. China owns us. The cannibals, they're pouring through the border, eating things, raising inflation. The country's a shithole. The world is a shithole. Everything was incredible when I was president, even though I was president during a fucking pandemic. He's the complainer. I'm Big Hard Trump. Look, Biden looked half dead at least half the fucking time, and that's all anyone is gonna remember from this. There's no use analyzing any further, to be honest. Obviously, Trump was lying through his teeth constantly in an increasingly exaggerated performance, but whatever. What people are gonna take from this is that Biden looked half dead. As you can imagine from this performance, the Democrats are shitting their pants, and they should be. Now, before I switch off, next episode, apart from Luigi being with us, well, he will of course give his views on the debate, which, dare I say, will not stray far from mine. George, what do you mean Biden had an incredible debate? We have so much news coming up, including French parliamentary elections on Sunday and UK parliamentary elections on Thursday. That next week's schedule is going to be wonky. We're probably coming in twice. Sorry, YouTube algorithm. Oh, great algorithm, because dear viewers, the news waits for nobody. As the great Lenin once said, in some decades, nothing happens, and in some weeks, decades happen. So before I go, please like and subscribe if you like the show, and we'll see you again very soon with Luigi. Do we have any parting news? Oh, he'll probably shit his pants on stage by then.